Welcome to Kirsti Cast, the show where we hope to illuminate, entertain, and engage our listeners, helping them create the life they want. I'm your host, Kirsti Manna. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Kirsti Cast. I'm Kirsti Manna, and thanks so much again for stopping by. Well, today is interesting on the podcast because I do not have the kind of guest that you would usually expect me to have. Today's guest is going to be Bill Warner because we decided it would be a lot of fun and very educational to have an exchange about the 10 things that an artist needs to be successful in the music business. I know that's a long title, but I'm running into some young artists here and there that make me think that maybe they really don't have it all figured out as to who they want to be and how they're going to get there as an artist. And it can be a very difficult and confusing thing in this current music climate, but I'm not afraid to talk about it, and neither is Bill. So we're going to be right back in a few minutes with our very special guest, Bill Warner of Warner Works, and also my partner in life and music. We'll be right back. I've spent years of self-discovery learning how to live a successful creative life. That's why I created my course, Spark Your Creativity, the Steps to a Successful Creative Journey, to help others discover their own potential. Your creative journey never ends. So why not invest in yourself and sign up for my course today at Kirsti.com. See you on the journey. Welcome back to Kirsti Cast. I'm Kirsti Manna, and today's guest is Bill Warner. Now, you've been hearing Bill Warner speak on my opens here and there in the podcast. If you're tuning in and listening, and I know you hang on my every word out there. Ha, ha, ha. And so today we thought it would be fun because I want to do another series, and this series is the 10 things an artist needs to know to be successful in the music business. So this is totally my take on it. This is not gospel. Or maybe it is.
And my take as well.
Yeah. And some of what we have to say, we really believe in because we've been working with artists for many years, and we've had some really great ones come and go, and people that have come to town and left town, and people that just don't really know how to get it started. So we thought it would be fun to talk about our opinions of what it takes. And we're going to be breaking these things up in a few different podcasts because actually I could talk about this subject for a really long time, and I don't know if you want to hear me talk that long. So let's get started. Bill?
It's kind of interesting for me today because I had the pleasure of working with Bill DeLuigi, co-producing his second release, which is called Refugees of Rock and Roll. And had some people commenting on my high school rock band, and I commented on that. Old bandmate Alan Sokolic had some photos, and it just got me thinking about how long I've been in music and all the information that I've gathered. So it's fun to be able to impart some wisdom. You know, I've definitely learned some things along the way.
And that's a really funny thing. You know, we all say that he or she is in music. And most people on the outside of the music business have no idea what that means or what it takes to be in the music business. And there's a lot about the music business that has nothing to do with being a singer or a musician or anything like that. We want to specifically talk in these next few podcasts about what an artist needs. You know, a recording artist, a performing artist. You know, those are really kind of tied together very closely, I think, in the, I'm going to say the country music business that we're, you know, entrenched in. Mm-hmm. And, you know, when you're a performing artist, then you undoubtedly have recordings that you sell or stream, you know, your fans can stream. But one of the things that we always talk about, and you can bring this up to an artist, and a lot of times they really don't know because they're just excited about making music and writing music, and they don't really think about their brand. What is your brand? That is something that I think is really important in the country music business, in any business, any part of the music business.
I think sometimes people have to walk in their shoes, so to speak, to find out what that is. They could think their brand is going to be one thing, but when they get involved and keep, learning things, and they're likely to change and adapt and grow. So I think you should always have as much of a plan as you can generate, but you need to be open and objective to changes as well.
Yeah. But I think what happens a lot of times is that people do the copycat thing. And I know that happens for a lot of girls especially in country music. I mean, I'm sure it happens in pop a lot too, but there's a lot of copycatting, and, it's hard, I think, for artists these days to not kind of do that because of social media. Here I go again on social media, which I think is a great tool for your brand. But you need to think about who you really are. And this might sound really old school or something, but I mean, you can use Pinterest now, and that's such a great resource. But I think it's really important for an artist to know who they are when they're on stage, or even when they're walking out the door to go to a meeting. What do they look like? What do they wear? What kind of clothes do they wear? Or, what are their colors that go along with each new album that they release, with each new single that they release? You don't usually have to come up with rebrand yourself on a single, but if you're doing an album, you're probably going to do an album every few years these days, every year, if you're lucky. And so you want to think about all that's wrapped around the brand of that.
Let me address something you just touched on, copycatting. I think copycatting is helpful and necessary when someone's trying to figure out who they are, what their branding is like. J.S. Bach learned to write music as being a copyist. There's a famous guitar player that was in Deep Purple, Ritchie Blackmore, that said, "Never borrow a lick, steal it." So, in other words, make it your own, incorporate it into your style. So that's how people figure out what makes them tick as an artist is kind of emulating someone else. But the important thing is there comes a time when they have to break away and develop their own identity.
Well, I'll buy some of that, but I think that there's a lot of copycatting that goes on. I mean, we're talking like right down to how somebody styles their hair. And I think that it gets a little bit ridiculous. And I just think part of it is because artists don't think there's any other way. This is my opinion. Artists don't think there's really that many ways or that many other choices of how they can figure out what their brand is. So, when you're younger, of course, you're emulating some artist that you really like. When I was a kid and I was in musical theater, I wanted to sing like Barbra Streisand, for example. I was really into her kind of singing. And so I was trying to, understand how she hit those notes or whatever, that kind of thing. I get that. But what I'm talking about is I think it's important. And, girls, in my opinion, always look a lot more together than guys do. And we have been to many events in this town where the girls look like, they're ready to go out on a date, and the guys look like they just came in from the yard mowing the lawn, and they look ridiculous.
So you have an aversion to backwards ball caps, is what you're saying.
Definitely. I don't think that's a look. I just think that's laziness. There, I've said it.
No, I think that could be an appropriate look for the right kind of artist.
Okay, that's all I'm going to say about that.
We can agree to disagree on that.
So if you're trying to figure out your brand, I think one way you can really do it is, one, if you have the money, you can hire a stylist.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you don't have the budget for that, you can start looking, old school, online magazines or magazines. You can look at Pinterest, something like that, to try to get ideas. I used to tell this to young artists all the time. When you're younger, you have a lot more time. You don't have the responsibility that you have when you get older and you have to have a car and pay for a house and all those things. But you have time to get in your closet and see how creative you can get with what your look is, because that's really important. Perception is reality. People see that look and they're already going to judge. And I just believe that anytime, and female artists really have it hard this way, but anytime you're going to walk out the door, you better really be dressed as if you could meet the opportunity of your life at the coffee shop. So it's just something to think about.
So while we're on the topic of image, and we're kind of going back and forth between when somebody's trying to figure it out, they have a newer career. And then we also should mention that after an artist has been out there, from project to project, they may reinvent themselves.
Oh, absolutely.
They may have a whole new sound that they're going for, and consequently a whole new image.
Yeah. And I think that's a really important thing to keep track of that, And then we're just really talking about a look. The brand can also be about what your deal is on stage. Who are you on stage? Are you a singer-songwriter? Are you, what's your band look like? What's the brand of that? I mean, it goes on and on.
It's worth mentioning that your image might be a total persona that you take on.
That's right.
It may not be who you really are as a person, and that's okay.
Yeah.
You could have this persona that you take on while you're performing.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point. And then, too, the brand of your music, and artists are always evolving with their music, and you should be growing and evolving in your writing and in your production, and what you need to speak your creativity, your artistry through your music. You got to figure that out, and you got to spend a lot of time to figure that out. And that isn't just something. That is not something you should just copy. I'm not saying that you should not look at other artists and see what they're doing. Success leaves traces, and I really believe in that. But I just don't think you should try to be exactly like them.
You have to hope that your fans come along with you too as you reinvent, because that can be tricky. Somebody could try to do a radical departure with a new sound, and the fans want to hear the old hits,
right,
from back in the day.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's a good point too. So another thing that I think is really important is, who are your fans? That's something that I think is really important for an artist to understand. Who are your fans? Let's just say even age group. Who's your market? Who listens to your music? Who do you think would listen to your music? And and a lot of times artists say, all ages, but I don't really even believe that. Now, the one thing I believe about Taylor Swift, for example, is that she made all these fans that were kind of her age when she first hit the scene, and then, of course, because those fans were too young to take themselves to a show, their parents had to go, and then maybe their grandparents went, and so she was really able to make a lot of fans in different age groups because of who she was and how successful she became at a young age. But I think that's a really important thing to figure out. What do you think about that, Bill?
Some of this crossed over to the previous topic, but I think there's some truth to the fact that your fans find you. You might target a certain demographic, or might think there's a certain kind of people, but things have a way of sorting out to where you don't pick your fans as much as they pick you.
Right. Another one that I think is really important is, do you crave knowledge about your craft or just pretend that you do?
Oh,
Let me hear what you think about that.
That's my pet peeve, because I think as an artist, if you're really serious, you have an insatiable appetite to learn and grow. Knowledge is power, and I'm just speaking for myself now. I'm an engineer producer, And the technology is really changing fast these days. And either you keep up or you become irrelevant. So I love, I guess it's beneficial for me. I love learning. And so that keeps me motivated. But there's no way that you can afford to stand still as an artist. You've always got to be trying to improve yourself. And there's so many areas to do that in, whether it's songwriting or recording or performing. It's just, possibilities are infinite.
Well, and also, the kind of thing of, how well do you know yourself as an artist? And that was part of why I wrote my online course, Spark Your Creativity, was because I really delved into my soul, my heart and soul about my creativity. And it didn't come through the music business. It came through a master acting class, which was serendipitous for me at the time. And I really learned a lot about myself by doing that. And so I wanted to share that with my course. So, one of my biggest things is the whole deal of losing the fear. Because so many people have fear about creating, again, back to the thing of copycatting. Am I good enough? I'm not, my stuff's no good. Nobody should hear it, that kind of thing. Eventually, as an artist, you have to let the world hear what you have to say. And you're only going to get better if you keep honing that craft and gaining more knowledge. The next thing that I think is so important, do you play an instrument? Which I think it's really important to do that. Again, does it hinder or enhance your performance?
Again, that kind of ties with what we were just saying. If you play an instrument, the more proficient you are, the better off you're going to be at expressing yourself. I could think of certain people that I've run across in my career where they kind of only wrote what they could play on the guitar, and that's sort of really limiting yourself. So all that to say, you should really try to transcend those limitations.
Right.
And again, the sky's the limit. You could take that to the nth degree.
I would love to know how many people that are listening actually study voice or study with somebody for their instrument of choice. I think that's really important. Your voice changes as you get older. You might write a song that is a bigger range than what you're used to singing in. You have to go for those kind of things. That's all about a reinvent too. As you grow through your career, you might change your brand a little bit, and that might include something that goes on with your music. So I think it's really important. Plus, studying voice as a singer is so important because you can study with people that really know about vocal health, and it's really important to keep yourself in good health, good shape, not abuse your voice. And you learn that you gain more respect for your gift when you study with somebody, I think. I always felt like I did. I loved taking voice lessons, and it was a therapeutic thing for me.
I love YouTube and listening to podcasts, and it's an infinite source of knowledge.
Yeah.
When I walk every morning, I take on a new topic, and there's always something to learn about.
And then you come back home and you blow my mind with something you just learned. It's like, what? I didn't know that. What are you talking about? I had no idea.
Yeah.
I thought it would be fun to take a break for a minute and play a song that we wrote together.
Mm.
This song I'm going to speak about is a really old one. It was one of the first things that we wrote together, and we're notorious for doing about 5 different recordings of things. I've always loved doing that, and that's the luxury of having a studio, is to be able to record different versions of a song. But I thought it'd be cool to play Heartbreak Moon, the last derivative that we did. And we wrote this song. When did we write this? This has been years.
Before we even moved to town. So
yeah.
I think it was in a Conestoga wagon.
I think it was like 1932
it was
or something.
Definitely horse-drawn.
We have written songs in moving vehicles, and I think we did write this one on a Conestoga
Well, it's worth
wagon.
mentioning that when we first came to Nashville, we were actually a writing team and sought out a writing deal and had a little writing deal there for a couple of years. And then I started venturing out into studio work. But yeah, we did come to town with a handful of songs and played them for someone at Meadow Green, which was
Part of Sony.
Part of Sony.
Sony True.
Yeah. And we thought, we were ready to take the town by storm. And the person listened to a song or two and they said, "Do you listen to country music?" Of course. So that was devastating. But
so we got back on the wagon. No,
it's part of growing and just taking your lumps and being objective. But yeah, this song has kind of stood up in time through those days. But
well, and we
wrote it in the mid-'80s.
Oh, something like that.
Before we moved here.
Well, we were really into the jazz thing, and so it
our
it
jazz
has
roots
that.
came out of that.
Yeah. So this is Heartbreak Moon. Hope you enjoy it. We'll be right back. Heartbreak Moon, coming back too soon. Laugh anymore, and I will cry. Hush-a-bye, baby, hush-a-bye. Lonesome blue, stuck with big old you. Heartbreak Moon, it's me and you tonight. Where is the one man that I can hold on to? And if he finds me, will he always be true? Not much, no, since your last debut. Heartbreak Moon, it's me and you tonight. Sabandil, ba 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 do ba do 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 ba do, yeah. Skada ba 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 do ba 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 da ba da do da do da do, wa da dee da dee, ba 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 da da da, do 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 do, ba do ba 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 do 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 do. Where is the one man that I can hold on to? And if he finds me, will he always be true? Give me a clue. Not much new since your last debut. I'm still hanging, my tears to dry, all alone under your starry sky. Heartbreak Moon, it's me and you tonight. Oh, Heartbreak Moon, it's me and you tonight. I hope you enjoyed that song, and you can go and stream more music. I have it out there on Spotify, and Bill certainly has a lot of music that he's been a part of out there in the world, and you can check out his website, warnerworks.net, to see what else he has been doing lately. I have one more thing I want to talk about, and then we can continue this conversation on the next show. But this is something that I think is so important because I think so many artists in Nashville fall into the trap of singer-songwriter, and they don't have a stage persona. I think that's something to work on. And I always think it's, for as much as everybody films themselves and films each other, for Pete's sake, get a stand and put your phone on it and perform for yourself on video and observe, what are some of your little quirky habits that you do, the way you talk, the way you announce songs, how you say your name. And always, if you can, get your performances videotaped because it's priceless. You cannot believe what you learn from watching those. And of course, if you're an artist, then you can always use clips of that for content.
Well, you always have to keep in mind that you're performing for the benefit of the audience as well as for your own self-satisfaction. So you want to consider how they're going to, view your performance. Are you talking too much between songs? Are you not introducing songs? Are you singing with your eyes closed? Are you aware of how the audience is reacting at all times?
And even if you're standing at a microphone or sitting on a stool as a singer-songwriter, you can make your performance more exciting than just sitting there. And I always feel like when I go to some writer nights, it seems like people want to try to be invisible. Like, oh my gosh, I'm a songwriter up here, and I'm just a songwriter. I don't have any personality to the song or to who I am. I'm just sitting on a stool playing a song. And I just always think that so many singer-songwriters could get so much more out of their performances, even though they're just sitting there. And if you are really nervous about singing on stage, anything like that, then you need to go get movement class or dance classes or something like that. Movement classes are very good. You can get stage performance classes that teach you a lot about blocking, about when it's important to move, all kinds of things that you can do while you're playing your instrument that make it exciting, the way you end a song, the way you introduce a song. There's a lot to that.
Yeah, as far as a writer's night goes, people are kind of stuck on their stools, but they can still engage the audience by chatter and just being open and friendly and engaging with the audience like that. But your point is well taken about blocking. I remember seeing Manhattan Transfer, which basically they're just 4 singers, kind of jazz singers, but the way their show was set up, they had all kinds of blocking. Somebody comes out on a stool. They just were always moving around, which made the show seem so much bigger than it was and so much more active than it was. Just simple things like that can go a long way.
Yeah, I agree. And I do think that people want to be entertained even at a writer's night. They kind of expect it.
They paid money to park and drive there.
Yeah.
In Nashville, they especially
fly there.
Paid a lot of money to park.
They've paid a lot of money to park and fly. Yes, and fly there maybe. Well, we're going to be back on the next show with more of our opinions and tips on what we think an artist should know to be more successful or successful in the music business. We have a lot to say. Of course, these are just our opinions for everybody out there, so you can take it with a grain of salt, or I hope you are taking notes. And
I say do try this at home.
I say it too.
And then try it out in front of a crowd.
And then try it at a club. I say that too. Well, we're excited that you're here. Thanks so much for listening to Kirsti Cast. And thank Bill Warner for taking his time out from putting his head down in the studio and working on various projects that he's on. And we hope we're going to see you again here at Kirsti Cast. Don't forget to stream, listen, like, download, and share this episode. And go back and listen to other episodes. We've been having some really great interviews over the course of all the time that we've been bringing this to the airwaves. And it's really fun to meet all these different people that we interview. And it's fun to really sit face to face and talk about all this stuff that we talk about all the time on the back porch, right, Bill?
Yep.
About the music business. So if there's anything that you want to hear us talk about in regards to the music business, hey, please email me at info@songwritergirl.com. And we will happily take your suggestions. And also, if you know any guests you'd like to hear us interview, would love to hear from you too. Hope that you're going to have a wonderful week. Hope we're going to see you again soon here at Kirsti Cast. And as always, whatever you do, stay inspired. You've been listening to Kirsti Cast.